What's shaking, cats and kittens? This is Rob Lee from Mastermind Team's Robcast. I am the Rob in Robcast, the Silver Linings Playboy, the American Wave, the Midnight Snack Rob Lee. Get it straight. For all of you guys out there listening, we do a podcast. Me and my silent partner here.
Yep, Torn, you know. Probably the cool one out of the group, but you know.
I don't know. I don't know if that's accurate.
I have to be.
Say more about this.
I mean...
It's just like, get yourself over as the cool guy.
I'm the cool guy. Look, listen to my voice. That's it.
You're as cool. You're Kawhi Leonard. You're the Kawhi Leonard of this podcast.
Oh, shit.
I'm a fun guy. I'm a cool guy. So listen to us every week. We cover weird news, pop culture, entertainment. The cool guy, Torn, don't call me Tron, and me, Rob Lee, the King Snake, the Thoughts of Doom, the man with 101 aliases. And we're on every week on MTR Podcast, and that is mtrthenetwork.com. That is on Apple, Spotify, everywhere podcasts are found. Those are going to be MTR Podcasts. Look for us on YouTube and check us out on the Instagram account and Facebook, both at MTR Podcast. Check us out every Tuesday. New episodes are dropping. Subscribe today. This episode is brought to you by our presenting sponsor, Emma's Tea Spot. I've said it before, it's no secret. I prefer coffee over tea. But here's one thing you might not know. I'm an Anglophile, so obviously I've been to that quaint shop in the Hamilton neighborhood in Northeast Baltimore, Emma's Tea Spot. Go for a lovely date like I did, or enjoy a charming tea party with your friends. Emma's Spot is the spot to get away from your troubles and put the kettle on and have a chat. Like British goods but don't want to go across the pond? Emma's got imported goods like their bread boxes filled with candies, tea, and even crockery. These boxes can be customized for any occasion. Check out emmasteaspot.com for the proper British experience. Welcome to Getting to the Truth in This Art. I'm your host, Rob Lee, and today my guest is the owner of MW Lifestyle Brand. We have Meg Gillespie. Welcome to the podcast.
Awesome. How's it going? Thank you for having me.
It's going well. I want really superficial on it as to what your background is and what you do. It's deeper than that, obviously. So if you will, describe your work and what you're all about.
For sure. So, I kind of got into the whole fashion art scene, like at a younger age. I would say I was at like 16, I think. I had gotten scouted, quote unquote, by John Robert Powers modeling school / agency that was located on Charles Street back in the day. And that kind of just like sparked my interest and my passion as far as modeling is concerned. But as I started maturing and getting closer to what I was really passionate about, ultimately it led me to fashion and to design. I had always had artistic interest, like I was always into like painting and drawing and stuff just growing up. Like I was always in art class. Even in college, I took a couple of classes like that. And then, once the pandemic hit, I had lost my job. I was working at the Dream Hotel in Midtown, and it really opened my eyes to a whole new, sense of purpose, because I had to kind of like reinvent myself and get to a point where I could, make ends meet with what I was passionate about. And that was the art and the fashion. And as far as design is concerned, I'm literally teaching myself how to sew. So that's kind of been a work in progress. So right now my brand is more oriented towards painting, and doing, refurbishing vintage or old denim and doing different designs and stuff. So that's where my brand is at right now. But since I started working back in January, I've kind of had to fall back a little bit from the creative process, because it takes a lot of energy and time and effort. And I'm super perfectionist kind of vibe. I'm not going to put anything out unless I would wear it, or unless, I can see the just the vision of it,
Sure.
So that's where I'm at with it. But I do plan to transition fully from the hospitality industry into my brand at some point. It's just a matter of when.
I dig it. And you want to pick the right time. You don't want to come out where you have something, and as you were touching on, it's kind of not quite there. You just got to get something out, and now you want to do it when the timing is right, and when you feel like this is indicative of what this brand is representative of you and what you value.
Yeah, for sure. And then it's a lot deeper than just like, eventually, like, I don't want to do just customizations. I want to get into like actually designing clothes. I want to have like a gender fluid, progressive forward movement with my ideas. Like, I want to minimize sexualization and gender in my clothing, to give people just a new level of empowerment. I feel like, like for me personally, like I've had a lot of phases coming into my own, and I realized that sex sells, so to speak, in this whole capitalism environment. But I got to a point where I was like always wearing masculine presenting clothes, or always, gravitating towards things that were baggier or that were less form fitting for me. And I just, as I became, more endowed with my community as a gay woman, I just realized, like, I'm not the only one that goes through these kind of things. So it's a full circle for me as far as the brand is concerned. But that's ultimately why I wanted to name it a lifestyle brand, because I feel like it's a lot bigger of a movement and of a purpose than just art, or just, customizing jackets, or, whatever. There's a lot more that goes into it, like you had said. So you touched on it a bit, is like around identity, sexualization, things like that. So speak on that a bit more, like those ideas or concerns, or maybe in objectives that have motivated that work. Like you touched on it, and I imagine being scouted early, and being kind of in the space that you're in, you have some insight on that. Yeah, for sure. When I first started modeling, like, I really did not know who I was. Like, you can look at my pictures from when I was 16, 17, 18 years old, and you'll see a different Megan, for sure. I always tell people, like, I'm like the definition of a late bloomer. Like, I came into my own very late. Like, I came out very late. But that doesn't necessarily mean I wasn't struggling with my identity and with, my gender and my sexuality. Like, it all kind of came to a forefront once I got to like 20, 21 years old kind of thing. And then, like, once I was in college, one of my minors was gender studies. When I first went into college, it was women's studies. So it was kind of like ironic how there was this shift, not just with myself, but also with the world, and with how, gender roles and sexuality and all of these things are coming to the surface to be reevaluated. And, it really taught me to understand how gender roles ultimately confine us, and conformity, how it all kind of takes away from individualism, like in who you are as a person, and how you feel and how you want to be presented, and every time I got booked for something, it was, okay, we want you to wear this gown, we want you to wear, this bathing suit, and we want you to have your face beat like to the nines and your hair done and all this stuff. And I loved that, you know what I'm saying? I still love that, because it to me, it says, it's versatility. Like, I'm androgynous by default, but I still can, adapt as far as the fashion world is concerned, because let's be honest, like, there's still like a pretty serious line when it comes to women and how they're presented in fashion. Like, there's just that gender role that's there. But then I started noticing like how androgyny slowly started to be recognized as far as, you know, like street fashion is concerned, for example. Like, you know, there started to be less pressure in certain areas of fashion as far as a gender role is concerned. And that really sparked my interest and kind of got me you know, critically thinking about how I fit into these places and in these spaces, and how I can also, you know, spread knowledge to other people about my own experiences, and how ultimately, like, you know, they were not fun by any means, you know, but how they brought me into my power. For real. So the gender role aspect of even just relationships, but, you know, relationships, fashion, the community, like it's deep. It's a lot deeper than people think. And the spectrum is like one to 100, you know, like there's so many different ranges as far as gender roles are concerned. And as far as sexuality is concerned. So it all fits into fashion somehow. And I feel like, our generation is really at the forefront of shining light on, you know, gender roles and androgyny and the community, and how all of that plays into things that people wear on a day-to-day basis, you know?
Yeah, I think it's revisiting it, where, you know, stuff like this maybe outside of this country, but to a small degree in this country, we had some of that stuff in the 80s. Like I remember that Chappelle show bit. He's like, yeah, everybody in the 80s was hanging out with Prince, and every dude was androgynous or what have you. Mm-hmm. And you can see like Grace Jones, Annie Lennox from Eurythmics, and all of that stuff. So androgyny was there, and it's this kind of high art, like suits, the whole thing, high cheekbones, all of that stuff to present in a certain manner. And then we kind of left it. We kind of left it and went really gratuitous. And it was just, you know, everything that was quote unquote girly or womanly or what have you. And I think like the people that are working in the background that are making this stuff, many of those instances, they are people within a community that's not being represented in the actual presentation of high fashion modeling and so on. So a lot of people that I would imagine are in the closet, a lot of people that are out, but you had to have a lot of clout to be out. That rhymed, unintentional. But but that's the thing that you see, and I think you're right, that we're in this spot, and it's very indicative, I think, that every 30, 40 years, we're kind of revisiting certain things. Mm-hmm. You know, if you're looking at it, like if that was in the 80s and we're in 2021 and we're revisiting some of those things and being like, hey, why did we leave this to begin with? Why is this a thing? And it doesn't allow for people to be free and broad. In some way, shape, or form, we're conforming to something. And I think when people are presenting a brand or presenting an image that tries its damnedest not to conform and to check those or to push away those boxes of conformity, that's where you're actually you're able to truly present who you are and what you're about.
Mm-hmm. Break down those barriers. And, you know, it just, it inspires me, because you think about it, like all these people who were really just trying to be themselves, you know, like you brought up the 80s, like with Prince, for example. Prince is a Gemini. So like, he's like, you know, near and dear to my heart. So like, you know, I pull a lot of inspiration from these people, and I look at them like greats, you know, not just for their accomplishments as far as their respective fields are concerned, but also with the fashion stuff, like, you know, like high fashion, you know, that's one thing, but like everyday fashion and, you know, allowing people to be comfortable and to present themselves in whatever way they want. Like that's like all inspiring to me. And I've always taken, you know, little tidbits from the greats to kind of incorporate that in my work and in my even in my just day-to-day like styling and stuff, you know, like that fine line between masculinity and femininity, like it's there and it's very prevalent. You know, I try my hardest to kind of mix the two as often as I can, because that's really like, that's in me, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I like to look at it as I'm just nothing but a Carhartt shirt and a beard. That's just what my lifestyle is. And that's my lifestyle brand. It's just beard oil. And well, this is a wrestling t-shirt, but still the same thing. It's a Papa Shango
there
t-shirt.
You go.
So within your creative process, albeit you're kind of, on a bit of you're taking time away from it to what parts of it do you enjoy most, and what parts of it do you find the most challenging?
So I hate to be like an astrology kind of person, but I really do think that there are a lot of similarities when it comes to this for me specifically. Like, I have issues sticking to things. Like, I will have the greatest ideas and the greatest plans, and I will, prepare myself and go through sketches and ideas, and, I'll do all of that. But then when it comes to finishing the product, unless it's a commission, obviously that's different. Like, I'm going to do what I have to do to finish it. But when it comes to my own creative process, like, being a perfectionist and also being very indecisive, like it gets a little overwhelming sometimes, So it's like, I would say that's one of my biggest issues when it comes to my creative process. And I think a part of that, I started to get over during quarantine. I started to just freely create and not necessarily put so much pressure on like style or on, technique and stuff like that. I really just got into just flowing and just seeing where that takes me. So I feel like those two things are kind of coinciding as far as my creative process is concerned. But yeah, it's funny because, like I was saying earlier, like, I've always been into art, but I never really looked at the business side of it. Like, I was always just the creative side. Like, I was always just down to paint something or to draw or, whatever the case may be. But now that I've taken things like more seriously, I realized that I lacked a lot as far as the business knowledge is concerned, like having an LLC or actually owning a brand or, the e-commerce aspect of it. So when you do it all by yourself, it's kind of like, all right, I got to backtrack and like learn, the foundation of these things. So it's always a work in progress. And that's one thing that I was telling you, I think in one of our conversations, is like, I consider myself like a student of life. So if this is, the first stage of my business, then I have a lot of work to do. But I never looked at that as like something that's going to hold me back or that's going to like not transpire into what I want. I just look at it as a challenge, So
yeah, I think it's also I think when you're making that transition from a creative, an artist, or however you view it, but in that more of a creative space, to handling some of that stuff, and you're able to the business stuff, you're able to kind of better understand what you're good at or what you're bad at, or the way that I like to look at it is what you're efficient in and what you're inefficient in. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to paperwork, I can improv. We'll talk about that later. I can improv. I can do very well in doing this. A lot of chatting, a lot of yapping. But when it comes to, hey, fill out this form with these particular requirements, sure. What?
Right. Yeah.
It's just that meme where that lady is just holding her legs. It's like, I don't think I got it. Can't call it, boss. And that's my energy with it. And the wild thing is, I went to school for this stuff, but I was a business student in school, but my thing was more in the analysis of it. What's the ROI? And that's just inherent in my head. Like, all right, if I, let's say, sell t-shirts or sell merch or whatever, it's like, how can I transition that to how many hours of what I'm creating is that going to pay for from a IT standpoint, from online, from editing and things like that? Like, how do I translate one to the other? Mm-hmm. So that's the way I start looking at it. But when it comes to, hey, apply for this grant,
yeah,
I'm gonna have to holler at somebody.
Yeah, like, I'm gonna need some help with that paperwork real quick.
Some friends in moderate places. I need low-level friends with high-level expertise. I
like that.
I have sayings. When did you land that first experience in clothing, whether it be like making someone getting a commission, and what was the most valuable thing you learned from that experience?
Okay, so I have two pieces that are in my collection right now that are the inspiration pieces for my first actual collection. And that's kind of where like the sewing aspect comes into play, because I have some tailoring that I want to do with the denim. But the 2 jackets that I'm referring to, I actually started like 5 or 6 years ago. Mm-hmm. And you know, like I was like a chronic dater, like I was, you know, the bartending scene, like just being transparent. You feel me? Like I was just living my best life in my early 20s, you know, fresh out of college, you know, like I was just, you know, I was not focused. And I always knew that like I wanted to have my own line. Like I always knew that. And I always told people like, yeah, I want to get into like fashion design. Like I want to own my own clothing brand and stuff. But when it came to like picking a college, I was young and naive and I wanted to play volleyball. So obviously, yeah, exactly. Obviously I wasn't about to play volleyball at an art institute. So I went the other route, you know, and I don't regret it because I had a great college experience for the most part. But, you know, in hindsight, you look back and you're like, damn, like I was not very business oriented or like future oriented or career oriented at all. Like I was really just childish and just, you know, just not, I wasn't focused. And, it really took me losing my job and my stability with my income to say like, damn, like what am I going to do? You know, like I need to have something substantial that I can be fulfilled with and be happy doing for the rest of my life. And I always knew that, you know, like I knew the bartending and the hospitality, you know, they hold a lot of precedent in my life, but they don't have that aspect of fulfillment in terms of longevity. So I was like, you know what, like, let me go to the drawing board and like really, you know, just dive into something that I know is going to make me happy. Like it might not, you know, bring me millions of dollars. Although, you know, now you look at it and you're like, it has to, like, I want to get to that point. But, so I used the 2 jackets that I started as inspiration and I finished both of them. And I was like, you know what, like, this is definitely something that I want to do. So I just started playing around with a jacket that I had. And it was a short sleeve jean jacket. And I found a word that I felt like really represented a portion of who I am and what I want my brand to be represented as. And that word is couth, which means like, I'm sure you know, but well-mannered and like, you know, aware and, you know, you have like a certain respect for people and for life and for love and all of that. So that was the word that I chose. And there's congruency with all my pieces. Like all of them in my first collection will have couth on them somewhere. And,
you need to make me a piece that says uncouth, because that's usually how people describe me. If you listen to any of my other podcasts, it's like, that's uncouth Rob right there. You are right there.
Uncouth Rob.
Big zaddy uncouth Rob.
Yo.
Oh, no.
That's actually hilarious. I love that. But yeah, so I made a jacket for my brother and it was like super dope. Like I was like, wow, like I'm really capable of like pulling through with these ideas. And that was like kind of like one of the bigger obstacles that I had to overcome for myself, because I had this issue where I would have these ideas and I would start them and then fall short 5-6 years later, just now finishing the jacket kind of thing. You know, like I was like, man, I need to commit to this shit and I need to like really push it forward so that I can, you know, create a legacy for myself, you know, and for my family. So
I think that's important. Like, because we're Assans, you know, you mentioned the weird bipolar, quote unquote, Geminis. Us Aquarians, the more noble, the less representative of the zodiac. We kind of have a similar vibe, but we do things at the beat of our own drum. So it's this whole thing of, even if it's like 6 years, 5 years, whatever, it's like, yeah, I planned it that way. It's like, no, you didn't. It's no way you did it that way. Right. But this is one thing that I want to do. And I stand by everything that I say on podcasts, because I probably done like nearly 700, 800 podcasts at this point in the 12 years I've been doing it. And because I'm a crazy person. But I'll look back and I'm like, yeah, I said some spicy shit that year. Or it's like, do I want to go back and read? Yeah, we'll talk about that. It's like, do I want to go back there and do I want to revise that? Do I want to have a different approach? Has my belief on that matured? And it's not in that way that I said anything that's just shitty for being shitty's sake, but it's like, it was a joke that may not have landed. It was a bit that didn't work as well, or now I probably would say this instead of that now and still have that same aim of trying to be funny. And all of it, I feel like going to like another famous Gemini, Kanye West, it's like when The Life of Pablo came out, it's just like, you're going to keep tweaking this. This album is out now and you're going to keep editing it. Mm-hmm. And that's the way I kind of look at some of the work when you're in it. You're constantly working on the thing.
Oh no, hold on. I'm sorry. I have a phone call coming through.
You good? I'll edit this out in post.
I apologize.
No, you're good. You're good. But yeah, that's kind of how I look at that stuff. And it's a living thing. I think whatever that creative pursuit is a living thing. And if it's something you get to, like when people go back to school and it's like, yeah, I left and, it took me 20 years, but I finally got that degree. You're still learning in that process. You're a student of life. Period. Then I was circling back to you.
Yes, I love that because it honestly, it sticks. It really does. And it's so true. Like I tell people all the time, like, yo, I really learned more outside of university than I did not to say that I knew everything, you know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, like, there's a lot of things that you learn in a textbook that you learned in grade school that just has different wording in college, philosophies, like all of that. And I never finished my degree, to be honest with you. I have 6 credits left. And I always tell myself, like, I'm going to go back just for the sake of finishing that degree. Like I've put myself in debt, like I need to at least have that paper. But timing is everything. And we all have our own individual journeys and timing. So that's just one of those things, Yeah,
it's important to recognize that my experience is my experience.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So in splitting time between Baltimore, because you touched on Midtown, you meant Midtown, Manhattan, where it's at. So in splitting time between Baltimore and New York, it gives you a unique perspective on fashion within both of those places. Mm-hmm. How do you feel the biggest differences between like consumer taste in Baltimore versus New York?
I think Baltimore, like, it's way more raw and way more real than what the, I guess, industry is in New York. Like New York is very pretentious. Like they're like the people there, here are just, they just feel like they're on another level. And I feel like the humility is lacking in a lot of ways, especially when it comes to like fashion, I will say I have learned to appreciate and respect Baltimore's fashion scene a lot more as I've become older and as I've kind of acclimated myself into a different fashion environment. Like I always like had this grand idea about New York fashion and about Fashion Week and, just the culmination of all of these major powerhouses in the industry, right? But then, you learn more awareness about what's behind these brands and the target audiences and the advertising that they use. And, and I started to say to myself, like, damn, this shit is corrupt out here. Like there's a lot of really shitty things going on behind the scenes with these brands that people idolize and love and spend thousands of dollars on, and at the same time, New York has a really thriving underground scene, and there's a lot of designers and artists from New York that I absolutely adore and aspire to be like, so I think with the resources and with the population in New York, there's like a little bit of an edge, right? You feel me? Like Baltimore lacks a lot of support in a lot of ways, which is really sad. And also ultimately a part of my mission. You know, I want to bring money back to Baltimore. I want to rebuild Baltimore's gay community. Like, I want to bring Hippo back and call it 2.0. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I really want to bring resources and help in whatever way to have Baltimore be that Mecca in whatever respect it wants to be. Like, I feel like the people who are coming up out of Baltimore right now really have the power to do that. And yeah, like there's just so many things that are quote unquote different. But if you're looking at like the underground scenes, there's a lot of similarities, like a lot. There's like this grungy punk kind of vibe that's like really associated with the art scene. And I adore that. Like, I love that. Like the Crown, Up and Down, like, you know, all these places where a lot of these really talented artists got their start from Baltimore, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, I see that and I want to shine a light on that, you know, and with Dark City Beneath the Beat coming out, you know, like people are glancing Baltimore's way, you know, they're starting to say like, okay, there's something cool going on. And I feel like that's the kind of leverage that community, as far as fashion and art, and even the gay community, like the LGBTQ plus community, we all need that kind of light and that kind of support to really leverage, you know, to the next chapter and to get more respect, because ultimately I feel like respect is all we would need, you know, like people to stop like counting Baltimore and Baltimoreans out as far as art and fashion are concerned. So
we have a lot to offer, and that's one of the things in various spaces. That's one of the things I try to accomplish in doing this podcast. Like, people listen. It's like, this is for Baltimoreans, by Baltimoreans, and it also has that travel vibe. Hint, somebody sponsor your boy, but it has that travel vibe of like, yo, pull up, check it out, and meet some of these people, and yeah, we got you.
For real though.
I want to switch gears into my last two questions I have for you. So let's talk about booze. I read your experience as a bartender. You're out there thick flaring it up or whatever.
Trying to.
Name 3 drinks that fly under the radar that you would suggest people try.
All right.
That's the hard one right there.
I like that though, because it's funny, because like the other day at work, I had somebody come up to me, and granted, we don't have bar service yet. So we're kind of like at that weird place where people want to come up to the bar and order something, but they can't. And he had stopped me when I was walking from the bar to the kitchen. He was like, "You're the bartender?" And I was like, "Yeah." You know, he was like, "Well, can you please like make me one of your signatures?" And I was like, "Damn, my signatures." He was like, "What's it called? Like, I want to know everything." And I'm like, I can't give you the logistics first and foremost, unless you're going to pay me, because that's a part of the brand. But
money Meg.
Yeah, like, you know, because people will take your shit and put their own name on it and be like, yeah, that's mine. So
it's an episode of The Simpsons. I mean, the whole Flamin' Homer or what have you. It's a whole episode of The Simpsons.
Simpsons always has the predictions, I swear. Like, they've known what's up for so long. But okay, so my favorite spirit to work with is tequila. And under that umbrella is also mezcal, which is a smoky variation of tequila, for those of you that don't know. One of my favorite drinks, like any time of the year, is a Paloma. And I like to substitute mezcal in the Paloma. Hell yeah. So it's either tequila or mezcal, and then grapefruit juice, lime juice, agave, and like a splash of like club soda. Super good, light, refreshing. It has a little sweetness to it, a little tartness, like, and if you add the mezcal, it has like a little smoky profile to it. It's amazing, like top notch. One of my favorite drinks. I recommend it. You know, some people are like, ugh, grapefruit juice and lime juice is so sour. And I'm like, well, yeah, no, for sure. But you can adjust that. All you have to do is add more agave or more soda to kind of cut the tartness, you know? Gotcha. So that's like my number one. I tell people all the time, like, try the Paloma. We actually have a Paloma on our menu. I wouldn't make it the way they make it, but you know, you gotta go with the program sometimes. So, Paloma. I
prefer to have your version of it though.
Yeah, hell yeah, I would too. So there's that. Let's see. I would say, like, since it's like about to be summer, we were kind of talking about like different profiles. I love working with cucumber and I love working with like fresh produce. So for me, I would do like some kind of either gin or vodka based martini with cucumber and like fresh jalapeno, and like a little lime juice, even maybe a little mint to kind of give it a little like floral herbal kind of undertone. I love using spice, like on my palate. I love like spicy stuff. So I would load it up with like jalapeno, shake it really good, put a little lemon or a little lime juice and like some. Yeah, there you go.
I always got that thing on me.
Yes, me too. Like for real. I always have a little thing of hot sauce somewhere. So, but yeah, like anything with like gin or vodka and cucumber and lime and jalapeno, like it's such a full body profile kind of flavor. And it's just amazing, especially for like a hot summer day. And then my last one, I would say like a classic, like old fashioned. Like I'm not really very keen on whiskey or bourbon, but if the opportunity presents itself and there's a really good bourbon that I can work with, I'm definitely gonna step up to the plate for a good old fashioned. I like Whistle Pig. I like Woodford Reserve, Johnny Walker Black, which is like more on the Scotch side, but all of those work with like a little sweet vermouth and like some Angostura bitters or like orange bitters or like even like walnut bitters. Like you can really play around with the profile because all of those things accent the bourbon really, really well. And then just rim the glass with like a little peel of like orange or something. And man, you've got yourself a great experience for real. So
you're selling tickets.
I know. I can feel it. I feel that.
I'm here for it. I'm going to have a drink. It's after 12 o'clock. Great. So the last question I have is this. Describe your Baltimore and why you think it should persist as a cultural beacon.
I tell people all the time, like, I didn't grow up in the city, you know what I'm saying? But I claim Baltimore because Baltimore has my heart. Like, I've always wanted to live in New York and I'm doing that now, and I'm very grateful and blessed to be in the situation I am, but Baltimore is always going to have my heart. I come from a relatively conservative background, as far as like the people I grew up around, like even some portions of my family and stuff. So coming into my own, like Baltimore really gave me the confidence and the edge that I needed to like step into like my purpose and step into my voice and ultimately like give people around me some leverage and some opportunities to, bring that light back to Baltimore and opportunity. And, like it to me, it will always be a mecca for art and for music and for fashion in one way or another. Like if things were to never change, I would still feel the same way. But I have this really beautiful idea in my mind about where Baltimore can go. And the people that I met coming up there really changed my life for the better, like really inspired me and really, really showed me just a different side of life and of love. And, I'm just really grateful for those opportunities and those experiences and the people that I met along the way. So when I think about Baltimore, I think about a beautiful place with great food, great people, and great music and art. So that's my spiel for Baltimore. And I just want to spread that message to more people. Like every person I meet, they're always like, where are you from? And obviously I say Baltimore, fuck that. Like I grew up in Westminster, but like I spent, so much time there learning about myself and learning about culture and learning about food and hospitality and art. Like it really just gave me a full blown, well-rounded understanding and respect for the city. So, super grateful. And, I can't wait to bring that love and that light, and I know that there are so many other people who are dying to do the same thing. And that's like just invigorating. Like, I love that. I really do. So just like you're doing the same thing. You feel me?
I'm trying.
No, you are for sure.
Well, thank you. Well, that's all of my questions. So I want to give you the opportunity to shamelessly plug. And I mean, just make an ass out of yourself, mix drinks while you're saying it. I don't care. But shamelessly plug anything, your social media, whatever. Go ahead and do your thing.
For sure. All my social media handles are the same. It's Money, MONEY _ Meggy, MEGGY. Please do not call me Meggy. My name is Meg or Megan. Like, it just became a part of the brand because like that was like, you know, I know people call me Meggy and I'm like, not quite, but it's okay. You know,
I'm a little bit of a troll, so I was thinking about it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't trip about it, but it's just one of those things. I'm like, it's so cringy. Maggie is just not my thing anymore, you know? But yeah, check out my brand page, MW Lifestyle Brand, all one word, lowercase. I'm going to get a website up and coming soon as I finish this collection. So I think maybe 3 more months, and then I'll have my first 10 pieces ready to go online. If you're looking for like customizations or you want to buy a piece of art, hit me up. I'm with it. Like, it might take a little longer because I work like 4 or 5 days a week right now, but you know, I'm gonna make that shit work. It's all love. That was me plugging myself.
Well, thank you. I'll do my sign off and we'll be done. So for Megan Gillespie, I am Rob Lee saying that there's art in and around Baltimore. You just got to look for it.